I can boldly say that it's heated in here. Welcome to another episode of the Straight Talk Debate League. Today we're joined by four schools, and on my left-hand side I'm joined by Shipena Secondary School. On my right-hand side, Plessis Secondary School, and they're here to give us yet again another heated debate with a motion that reads, "This House will ban the adoption of African children by foreigners." Let's stop and think for a while about Angelina and her many African kids. But that's not for me to debate. Let's hear what the debaters have to say about it.
Afternoon, House at Large. I go by the name of Victor Hoveka. House proposition on the motion, this House will ban the adoption of African children by foreigners. So, House at Large, this is what we are addressing to. We are banning anyone that is not from Africa from adopting a person or a child, so to say, in Africa. So that means a person from Africa can adopt another African if it's it. As long as they're African, adopting out of another African country, it's fine. We don't see it fit that the people from foreign countries that are not African adopt into African countries, because currently we're faced with racial insights from foreign countries. So what do we mean by this? Mr. Speaker, the people in Great Britain, so to say, Black Americans also, just so as an example, are currently being victimized for their colors. So we therefore see it fit that we remain with our Africans in Africa instead of giving them to the outside world where they will still face these kind of hardships. Other than that, we'll tell you on how this kid's heritage is lost through these foreign adoptions and what can happen to those that are not adopted by the age of 18. So my first speaker will tell you on identity crisis, abuse, and what we advocate for as team proposition. I myself will be giving you an insight on why we're giving away potential. First and foremost, what do you mean by giving away potential? Mr. Speaker, if you keep this child in Africa, get them educated in the African system, this child is the best suited candidate to solve Africa's own problems. So we therefore see it fit that this kid remains here, finishes tertiary education here if possible, and then is put into the workforce of Africa, whereby we help develop ourselves with our own African resources. Rather than give this child to America, whereby he's taught the American way, that Africa is poor and our own Africans can't solve our own problems. So this kid is then living their dream that he's in America, he officially lives as an American citizen, and therefore he's not obliged to do anything for Africa. So we advocate that the African child remains in Africa to help Africa through African resources. Getting back on what we are going to do, on how we are going to establish this. We all know about the SADC countries, and we therefore urge other countries that are not part of the SADC region to join the SADC region, as we see that these kids that are in legally recognized orphanages are kept by the government and monitored by the government. So we give these kids free accommodation, free education up to tertiary level and first year of workforce. So we then see that this kid is catered for to all they need if they are not adopted by the age of 18. So therefore, this kid now benefits Africa as a whole, and they repay what they have taken out from the government, and they have that entitlement that as an African, I helped Africa become a better place, instead of going to Britain or America where then they are exploited for who they are and their talents are put in favor of the first world countries. With that said, I would like to vote opposition.
House at large, I thank you. So, Mr. Speaker, from told us about basically the stereotypes that happen that, you know, if children are adopted in European countries, they will be criticized for their color and all these types of things. Now we say that this is not true, because when these children are adopted, they are not just adopted by any organization. Our governments look into it that these children are adopted by organizations that are there to take care and cater for the child's human rights. You see, so these children are not just taken and then we have their rights exploited, or these children are then treated in a way that is not appropriate. These children are taken into well-off families first of all, that can accommodate them, that can treat them well, give them love, and make them feel at home. Now, Mr. Speaker also came here and then he was talking about how he pointed a wall that seemed so beautiful, that no, Africans can come and we can develop our own countries without having the help of other countries. Now, Mr. Speaker, do you know that most of the African countries are actually not developed? And the thing with this is that we need help. Let's just be honest, we really do need help from European countries in order for us to be developed countries and help our own people. Because if you are telling us that no, people are going to go to orphanages and they are going to be taken care of, they will be catered for when they go to varsity, they will have homes. What about the people that we have lying on the streets that have no place? And what about the orphanages that are getting overwhelmed? What about the orphanages that are now getting old, that are not meeting the standards of other orphanages that are in European countries? Please let your second speaker come elaborate on that. He also mentioned to us that it's better if African children help themselves instead of getting help from other people. Yes, we do agree. It will be good if we help ourselves, but then let's just be honest. We as Africans cannot do this alone. We need help of other countries in order for us to build ourselves and to become developing countries. Now, let me get into my case. So, as I mentioned, Namibia is a developing country, or African countries, or let me say most of the African countries are developing countries. This means that we are not 100% able to cater for our people. For example, Namibia, we have people on the streets, we have people that are not able to take care of themselves. No one can take care of them because they don't have parents, they don't have people that are there for them. So now these people, even if they were to go to orphanages are full, they are overwhelmed, and we as a country cannot do anything because we do not have the money nor the resources to cater for these people. And it's now not because that we do not want to, but it's because we do not have anything that we can do. But if we accept help from other countries, or the aid that we are getting from other countries, which is them getting our children off the streets and catering for them and giving them better lives, helping educate our children, feed them, guide them, love them, and then our children will obviously come back and they might just help us become a developed country that we cannot do on ourselves. And also, in conclusion, I would just love to say that yes, we cannot do this on our own. We do need help of other countries, but I hope Team Proposition will be able to consider our facts that no, an African child doesn't need to stand on its own in order for it to be developed.
Before you go off, ma'am, just
Mr. Speaker, let me first answer the question that was brought forth by the first speaker from the opposing side. She came here with a question and gives the burden to me. Well, to tell you about the people that are on the streets. Those people that are on the street they are not orphans, but the people that made mistakes in life, the ones that dropped out of schools, and the ones that don't take their life seriously. Those are the people that are on the streets. So, going on to what you said, okay, the developing countries, like African countries are still developing countries. They are still developing countries because African countries like depending on other countries for things they can bring up themselves. African countries are rich with natural resources and other things, and they can use that to develop their countries and become the same as other countries. Thank you, I'm done very much. So moving into my first point. So it is impossible to control the foreigners that are adopting children from Africa. So these children are our children. You wouldn't want to give away something that's so precious to you. As my first speaker has said, we are giving away potential, and he explained that to you. So why should we not work on a plan to encourage families to take them on and adopt them instead of giving them to strangers whose whereabouts you don't even know, or you don't even know or be able to track after they sign the contract they're supposed to be there. There is a time that you will definitely miss your child or something. You don't just get this. A child is a gift that you get, and you wouldn't just want to throw away the child in that manner. That way, it is easier for the law of the community to keep a keen eye on how these children are being treated, on whether the adoption was solely for the benefit of the child or for exploitation purposes. With this point of mind, we look at the following countries, which is Kenya and Ethiopia. Those two countries already banned the adoption of foreigners in their country. Why? Because their kids are being abused. They are being adopted for only for exploitation purposes and not to give them a better future. So I also move to my second point, which is abuse. High profiles of cases of physical and psychological abuse have been reported about children that are adopted by foreigners. One of these children was the 13-year-old Hannah Williams, who brutally died due to hypothermia compounded by malnutrition and gastritis. So when we give our children to these foreigners, they don't take good care of the kids, but instead, sometimes they use them for their own benefit. They think maybe they adopt a kid while the child is a baby, and then when he or she grows up, they tend to make the child work in prostitution and all other illegal jobs. That is why we as Team Proposition are saying we should not allow foreigners to come and adopt kids from our country. Why is it that they don't adopt from their own countries? It's not only that Africa is the only continent in which there are a lot of kids that don't have parents. Other countries also have the same situation. But why don't those specific foreigners adopt from their own country? So. Let me move on to my third point, which is identity crisis. We all know that when you're being abused so brutally, you won't even want to show yourself to the public, which is a very bad thing. A child's safety is not just about food, security, shelter, and access to education. It is also about their mental well-being and happiness. We all witness countless children going through an identity crisis and are depressed. This is why we say foreign adoption does more harm than good. So, just getting more into my point. You wouldn't want to be at a place where you feel uncomfortable or something. You will be like, you won't be free like the same way you are now right here. You are here free. You wouldn't want to go. You don't want someone just walking through the door and be like, no, not taking, and be like, I want to adopt a kid from here. I mean, with whose consideration? You won't even be free to go with the person. Okay. We want children to grow up being able to identify with their culture and identity, with their cultural identity and language. You take, foreigners adopt kids from Africa, take them to America, teach them their American beliefs and culture, the language and all that. And then the child tends to forget from where he or she came from. That is why we think culture and the language also identity is what is most important in this case. So we look at the
if I got the proposal said clearly, they are stating that we should leave our children in streets rather than giving them a home somewhere else. So, from what the previous madam said here, she's saying that Africa is having enough natural resources to take. They are having enough natural resources, but instead these natural resources are taken at waste. For example, the fish road that we have just experienced here in Namibia, and they are not building up proper home furnitures to cater these people. I don't understand, but the proposals that you are speaking as if he had never been in Kapitula. You cannot tell me that all those people are people who dropped out of school, but instead you can find a 7-year-old boy selling eggs in the streets, which is not correct. To move on with my next point, children that are adopted by foreigners allow the children to be exposed to better opportunities such as education and are able to experience a stable household, as most of these foreigners are willing and can afford better lifestyles. It also benefits the children in a positive way as it brings them the joy of belonging to a loving family instead of them being in streets.
I'll be short and sweet.
Africa is a very poorly developed country. Continent. So we cannot try and keep the children here where we are having a very low living standard instead of them giving them for a better life. I will take the example of Mario Balotelli, the Italian footballer. The guy was adopted from Africa, and today he's one of the most intelligent and best soccer players in the world. This is simply because he got exposed
Sir,
at a very early age, I accept.
the very early age he got exposed to soccer. Does he play for Namibia? Or does he play for Africa?
He played for Europe, but still, he's moving on with his life. Unlike other who were born with him, who are today here in Africa, but we cannot move on. So please try and understand. We cannot try and develop on our own. And the other thing of our kids being exploited, our government looks deep into their adoption laws and their adoption procedures, and those people that adopt are those who are in need. We have social workers and procedures that protect the rights. You really think a child will should stay in streets instead of him having a home? And the other thing is that the European countries, American countries, Australian countries, those are developed continents, and they take human rights into considerations compared to African countries. Because you hear a lot of people, a lot of cases of corruption here in Africa, but we never heard of them in any other continent. They are very high here, even in Namibia. We are having a lot of corruption simply because we don't take in considerations our constitutions. Our countries are poorly developed, and they need help from the more developed countries.
What more were you thinking?
I accept.
If Africans, by pulling together their resources, could offer the same education and early exposure to all these things you're advocating for, would you take it, or would you rather wait for the foreign developed countries to just adopt 3 out of a million kids?
Exactly. If we can do that, and you prove and you remove these kids from the streets that are already in the streets today, and you remove them from the streets, then only after that you can ban people from the outer world, from the outworld, to come adapt. But still, if those people are there, still there in Kapitula, and we are telling you to stop the people, that is unacceptable, unethical. Any POI?
Just a point of information.
Yes, I accept.
That wouldn't be possible because they wouldn't see it fit, or they wouldn't see a need for them to curb it while it's fine. Unless you curb it, then they can see a need to start taking these people off the streets themselves.
A need of what? a need of what? A need of what if those people are still there in the streets? We should allow them. We should allow them to get a home instead of them being in the streets. What need are you speaking about here?
Good evening, House at Large. I cover the name of Sonia Reese and I'm the first speaker of Team Proposition. Starting on with my rebuttals. The first speaker comes up telling us about the kids being adopted. The second speaker comes up and tells us about the government works deeply on the government's roles are very important and stuff like that, and that the government will ensure that the kids are being safe. So in my sense of view, or our team proposition sense of view, how sure are they that they are going to ensure that, how sure are they that they're going to check if the kids are doing what they're supposed to be doing, or how well they are being mistreated, or they are not being mistreated, or they're being taken care of. We have to understand this as logic. If our government isn't, okay, the government is currently not, or the country is currently not following rules, as we can see. For example, the ministers and stuff like that, they are being arrested slowly by slowly about fish rot and stuff like that. Now, how are they sure that they can be able to consider or handle such a responsibility? Or strengthening my first speaker's case. My first speaker came up talking about giving away potential. This is clearly an offense or a burden that we have as Namibian people, or Africa as a continent. We say that we as Team Proposition think that if we offer comfort and warmth and education to millions of Africans, rather than sending them away or letting them be adopted by other countries, will then ensure that will then ensure that the children are much more safe and taken care of. And he asked Abu by asking the second speaker of Team Proposition if comforting or taking care of more people, taking care of thousands or millions of people is better than giving away 3 kids or 3 people away. Like letting them or waiting for them to get adopted, only 3 kids out of 1 million people. We have to understand that this doesn't make anything, this doesn't improve the Namibian or the African, this doesn't improve the African, or this doesn't reduce the African adoption. And we as Team Proposition are not saying that kids cannot be adopted. We are saying that they can only be adopted by African children, by African people, African continents, African countries, not foreigners. We as Team Proposition consider foreigners as Europe and stuff like that. And how are we going to ban it? We are with what we as a team have said is clearly here that foreign adoption is unsafe to the countries developed. So we feel we should just take the same action that Canada and Ethiopia took, so we can stop it in the rest of the African countries, because this won't even help us as a continent, because we are just basically not reducing anything. We are not reducing, as we say, we are not reducing the people in the street. People that are being in the street, like my second speaker said, people that are in the street are mostly the people that dropped out of school. How he say, the second speaker says of Team Proposition, opposition says that a 7-year-old is in the street because of dropping out of school. That is a 7-year-old. We are considering the fact of the majority. A 7-year-old is like how can I say, that is upon the parents and the communities, the parents and the families concerned, because that is a 7-year-old, and that's not, that person even should get out of school, so it's not a job, but it's not considered as a job. It's the parents, it's a kid. It's the parents forcing the kid to sell eggs and stuff like that, because how is he is trying to bring wealth to his family, and that is also not allowed. What have I told you in today's debate? I've told you why team opposition clearly doesn't make any sense about their points, and why we have, and why our ideas stand. And I've also told you how important is it for us to ban adoption. I leave a question for team opposition. Why is it that foreigners only come to
Good day, House. I'm the third speaker from Team Opposition. The second speaker stated that they would not want to give them the children to a stranger, but rather to give them to family members. But they are failing to understand that when the child is being adopted, it is going to stay with a family that is loving and caring, as our first speaker stated. The Team Opposition came here and stated, Team Proposition came here and said that Africans can help themselves, but as our first speaker stated again, that it's better for the children to get help from other countries, as they can still come back and develop our country. The second speaker spoke about children losing their parents. Now my question is that does she prefer the children losing their culture rather than the children getting a proper home where they can get a proper education? That is why we also have social workers that can look into the safety of the children when the child is being adopted. Social workers look into it that not just any organization can come up and ask for children to be adopted. And how can developing countries help another developing country if it cannot help itself? That is why we need help from developed countries such as the USA, China, and Nigeria and Ethiopia. Those are the countries that have successful adoptions. In this debate, I will tell you that Team Opposition has failed to understand that we are actually stating a fact as children who are being adopted live a better life as they get education in a better living standard and healthcare, and also a loving family. Okay.
Before you step down, ma'am, may I? As much as you have social workers all around Namibia, your 7 year is still on the street. What has your government done while we offer you an alternative out of this?
Okay, our government has done nothing, as they have nothing we can do to help the street kids. As we have orphanages for orphans who are dropped there. So some parents give birth, they leave the kids in the hospital, or they leave them at that orphanage. It's not for the street kids, but people who are willing to help from other countries can take the street kids and help them also.
Ma'am.
Decline, sir.
Okay, so it's a battle to see who at the end of the day gives the child a better lifestyle, if I'm understanding it correctly. I'm in no position to talk. Later on we'll hear from the chief adjudicator himself as to who won this debate. In the meantime, please enjoy the following video.
Number 5 equals energy. So every number from 1 to whatever million has a value to it. and number 5 equals energy. And so it's very befitting that, given that our theme this year is about energy, that we are celebrating today the zone, or my zone's 5th birthday. And effectively, we're celebrating energy. So when we sing happy birthday, let's sing it with a lot of energy and passion. And when I count 3, 2, 1, we will start. So 3, 2, 1, go.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Ivan. I was the chief adjudicator for this debate. Just to quickly sum up what we got in the debate, basically it's the So what we basically got in this debate is just basically that should African societies or African states allow their children or orphans to be adopted by foreigners? One side proposition says that only other African countries should be allowed to adopt, and that no foreigners should be allowed to adopt. And they mentioned things regarding how it has a psychological problem. Basically, that kids, when they leave Africa, they could also be a brain drain in terms of they might not ever come back to Africa. So that was one problem. That was the problems that they had, and they said that they would rather have them staying in Africa where they can help solve the African problems. Opposition then runs the idea that a lot of these kids or these foreigners that offer these kids offer them a different lifestyle that has better education, that is better guidance, and there's things that the African society can't provide for them. And they felt like that was something that was more important. So the boiling question then turned out to be who provides the best comfort or the best outcomes for this particular child. And with that, as the judges, we felt that the debate went to side opposition. Thank you so much.
I never made it, but I know what it takes. I'm motivated by a mix of emotions. I can understand it fully, appreciate my standing, go out of this world and ride on time. Oh, never in my life have I seen the sky light up like this. I
The king's there, king's here. Can I get a hell there? I And if you don't know, you don't ask. I'm top 5.
We have Windhoek High School in the house as well as Jan Mohr Secondary School here to debate the motion which reads, this house would revoke P.W. de Klerk's Nobel Prize. So you're about to hear a bit about who he is, but a bit of background. He used to be a South African president back in the day, and he is known to have given a speech that might have ended apartheid. But let's hear what the speakers have to say about it. In team proposition, we have Windhoek High School, and team opposition, Jan Mohr Secondary School. Calling to the podium the first speaker.
Yeah.
Panel, if you deny that apartheid was a crime against humanity, if you are against statues like the Rhodes statue being taken down, statues that represented white people being superior over black people, we don't think that you deserve to be an ambassador of the Nobel Peace Prize. So first of all, what exactly is today's debate about? We think today's debate is about whether or not F.W. de Klerk deserves the Peace Prize for contributing to apartheid ending. We think that like the debate is mainly about is whether or not he has the mentality and whether or not he has the ideologies and he's the type of person to be an ambassador of the Nobel Peace Prize. So, moving on to our characterization. Firstly, what exactly is the nature of the Nobel Peace Prize? We think that it's given to people who have heavily advanced humanity, people like Nelson Mandela, people like Albert Einstein. We think that it's a very prestigious award and it represents people that are good, it represents people that have good values. We think that once you get it, from the rest of society, people look up to you, Mr. Speaker. We think that when you get it, we think you have a certain level of responsibility to behave a certain way, towards society, because this award is such an honor. We think that you have to act a certain way if you have that prize. I think the purpose of this prize is to send a message to society that what you have done is something that's important and something that's good. I think that we say that the action that you have done is something that more people should do, and we place glory on that particular action. This we think that F.W. de Klerk does not deserve this prize, and and this is exactly how we'll be characterizing him. We think that he was the president and the leader of the NP before Nelson Mandela and during apartheid. We think that he contributed to ending apartheid and he got the prize because he helped end apartheid. I think that in the time that he was president, he heavily supported apartheid. We think that he only said it was bad because of the pressure that was put on him. We think that the attitude of this man, the attitude of F.W. de Klerk does not match the attitude of a person who is an ambassador of the Nobel Peace Prize. We think what he did was that firstly he opposed taking down the Rhodes statues. We think this statue is something that represents white superiority, and we think that supporting this to an extent defends things like white white superiority. We think that to an extent these things are bad, and that because of this he does not deserve this prestigious award. Secondly, F.W. Klerk said that apartheid isn't necessarily a crime against humanity. He said that it's not as bad as something like genocide, for example, and we think that that's something that's completely terrible, especially when like majority of the world thinks that apartheid was something evil, something cruel towards black people. We think for him to say that like it wasn't that bad sends a message across that he's kind of defending it, that he's kind of to an extent okay with it. We don't think this is okay, and we don't think that this is the way a Nobel Peace Prize owner is supposed to behave. So like, what exactly is our idea? What exactly is our argument? Our first argument is that why exactly it's right to take away this prize from F.W. de Klerk. First of all, we think this is true because of the things that he said. We think F.W. de Klerk is an apartheid apologist, and he doesn't view apartheid as something bad. We think that like he said that it's not a crime against humanity, and because he doesn't view it as something bad, we think that these values and these ideologies are things that he still has. I think the fact that he tries to defend it means that he thinks of it as something that's not that bad. And like we think this is important because basically the Nobel Peace Prize is one of the most like important and prestigious awards that you can have. We think that because like when you have people with these kinds of ideologies be ambassadors of the Nobel Peace Prize, you take away the meaningfulness of this prize and like what it truly represents. We don't think this is right, and we think that as the Nobel Peace Prize organization, they have an obligation to take it away from F.W. de Klerk. We think that the reason he got it in the first place was because he helped in a sense with the apartheid, but now the fact that nobody wants him to, basically the whole of South Africa is protesting against him having that prize, we think that he should be removed from this position.
Ladies and gentlemen, what the first speaker of Team Proposition here gives is a gross misconception of who de Klerk was. De Klerk was indoctrinated by the apartheid system brought to you by former presidents such as Botha. The fact that he brought the apartheid, the fact that he broke the doctrine makes him deserving of the Nobel Peace Prize. Bring me to what a Nobel Peace Prize is. A Nobel Peace Prize is an honor given to an individual who was able to bring peace to someone or some area has enabled the promotion of peace in some way. In the instance of F.W. de Klerk, he is worthy of a Nobel Peace Prize because he broke indoctrination. What we talk about is indoctrination. It's when you are from a young age, it's brought onto you. It's brought onto you. And when de Klerk was growing up, he was told that black people are wrong and this is right. Killing black people is the right thing, and it's not. The fact that he just broke that apart makes him worthy of getting the Nobel Peace Prize, and this doesn't make him a criminal. It makes him a victim. They are a product of the same racist people who are leading to the country because of its discriminatory ideologies.
Point, sir.
In this debate, I'll be talking to you about the benefits that South African people have gained from this. That leads to my first argument: Rainbow Nation. De Klerk and Mandela shaking hands was not just a black guy and a white guy shaking hands on national TV. It was the bringing together of a nation. It was the point where racism and apartheid ended for South Africa, and it was a new start for them. This created a reconciliation and peace in South Africa, which has told the South African people that they're the new start. And just by invoking or removing this can start a whole nother issue. This destroys the whole factor of Nelson Mandela, these heroes and heroines even fighting in the first place. And plus this can open new wounds and can lead into a ripple effect where the people of South Africa start not obeying. They disobey authority and of some sort. And now this brings me to my rebuttals. And no matter, even if right now the Klerk were to say something, you gotta give credit where it's due. And no, it doesn't change anything right now. It's still the past. He still helped some way in it so apartheid can stop. And she comes here and gives a gross representation of what the Nobel Peace Prize is. My definition is what we're running with here. And she can't. And what's the point if you are willing to remove this Nobel Peace Prize? What's the point of even giving it in the same in an instant? If at the point you're just gonna come and remove this, this is just like opening a wound that's already been closed. People can go into a civil war of sort. And saying that the Klerk was put pressure on, that doesn't make any sense, because he was the president. He had all the power. How is this pressure? I mean, he could say whatever he needed to say.
So,
yeah.
So if someone that received the Nobel Peace Prize denied that the Holocaust happened, would you still allow them to keep that Nobel Peace Prize?
Yes, because it breaks the whole factor. And if by removing this, like I said, it can cause something bigger than the actual majority. And yeah, this brings me to the end of my speech.
Ladies and gentlemen, I've been at many drives where people delegitimize the role that black people played in the emancipation or the independence of South Africa because of people like F.W. de Klerk receiving the Nobel Peace Prize. Of saying that, well, Nelson Mandela was quite important. The 27 years he spent was nice. But we needed people like F.W. de Klerk. If it were not for those people, we wouldn't have ended apartheid. It's so necessary that we had white people do it. Because if the white person wasn't there, the black people wouldn't have been able to do it. Ladies and gentlemen, we think that there is a fundamentally positive message that is sent when we revoke F.W. de Klerk's Nobel Peace Prize, and we think that it's entirely legitimate to do so. That's what we'll be telling you in today's debate. Before I do that, let's get to a few of the rebuttals from their side. Firstly, the entire idea that de Klerk was indoctrinated and then he got a reward for not being indoctrinated. No. He got that award because of his role in ending apartheid at the time, freeing Mandela, freeing political opponents from jail, stuff like that. It ended apartheid being formally enforced. But the reason he did that was firstly because of a fear of a racial civil war. There was a point in South Africa, there was a breaking point. There was a fear of the races literally going to war because of apartheid. So it was in fact something that was entirely necessary. Not something that he did as some benevolent person, but something which he did because he had to, which he wouldn't have if the pressure hadn't existed. Things like economic sanctions which were killing not just the people of South Africa, but the economic and political elites down of South Africa. That was something that was actually necessary for him to do. So we don't think that it was legitimized or really necessary to give him the Nobel Peace Prize at that time. We think it might have been necessary at the time because of how tense South Africa was, and just to bring that, like they said, rainbow, a little bit of unity. But we think that today we're talking about now. We're talking about revoking his Nobel Peace Prize today. And we think that sends a positive message. Revoking this does not remove the unity that it did bring. It doesn't remove what happened. But we think it's a recognition of the reality of what South Africa looks like right now. Because I think they ignore what Anesu said. He denied that apartheid was a crime against humanity. He got the Nobel Peace Prize because of the fact that he said that he ended a lot of things with apartheid, which shows you that he is to an extent an apartheid apologist, which has been glorified, which people look to when you get the Nobel Peace Prize as one of the more moral people which you could possibly aspire towards. If you deny that it's a crime against humanity, even though the UN General Assembly agrees and the rest of the world agrees, we don't think you deserve that Nobel Peace Prize anymore. We think it's entirely legitimate to revoke it. A few years back when the same debate was being held, when he said that he was against road statues being taken down, a man who enslaved black people, who entrenched colonialism, and he said we can't take it down because that's being politically correct, right? Insinuating that there was a time when colonialism was politically correct. He's done these things to sort of be on the margins, to sort of say, well, you know, apartheid and racism and colonialism was kind of bad, but it was not that horrible. The basis of his Nobel Peace Prize was the fact that he stood against those sorts of things. When he undermines the basis by which he gets it, we think it's entirely legitimate to revoke it. We don't think that there's anything problematic with that. Insofar as they say that there's going to be a problem with people being racially divided, no, we don't think there is. When they talk about opening like wounds, we think those wounds have been festering for a while. And that comes to my first argument, and then my only argument in today's debate further is about how we think we create positive discourse to discuss the importance of acknowledging not only the harms of apartheid, but also the reparations owed to certain people within that. So before that, a bit of context. We think the Nobel Prize is something which is given to people that have set, like, sort of sets the standard of morality. If you know that someone got the Nobel Peace Prize, it's essentially just one of the best people on the earth. If that person is denying that apartheid is a crime against humanity, and we look towards him, that is ought to be saying that this person that is an ambassador as one of the more moral people, and moral people espouse moral beliefs, that then it is then a moral belief to say that apartheid is like not a crime against humanity. That's why we asked him about the Holocaust. If you deny that the Holocaust occurred and you have access to the Nobel Peace Prize, people look to you for moral guidance. If you guide them in that way, we think we ought to revoke that and say, listen guys, we are sending a clear message as the Nobel Peace Prize Committee that you do not look towards these people as an ambassadors. There might have been a time when you did, but we no longer think that that is true. We think that that is like a higher standard we ought to hold these people to. So why do we think this is important, and why do we think this creates discourse? We think that it creates necessary conversations about things like the harm of apartheid, but more importantly, defenders of apartheid, which are not fully ready to acknowledge its harms. But before that, a POI.
So Christian, so let's say I'm in school and I get like the best above average student, and then I get into a horrible car crash where I know nothing about math. Are you going to take that exact award from me that I had when I
No, sit down. You won it back then, right? You were the best student for that particular year. We're not saying you're the best mathematician all over the world. Obviously, if you can't do math anymore, you're not the best mathematician anymore. We don't think that's a relevant POI. What we would say is that what we think this discourse looks like is discussions about apartheid apologists, right? I think it reads the creation of the importance of black people independence being discussed. Not just that, but the importance of like how black people ought to be able to be celebrated more retrospectively when we're talking about apartheid. When you say, okay, cool, the Klerk said these things about apartheid being a bad thing, we're going to not being such a bad thing, we're revoking his Nobel Peace Prize. We're punishing him for that. That means that people are elevated, and black voices are elevated to a platform where they feel comfortable to say what they feel about apartheid in the way that they're currently not. Because if we have to look to him as moral guidance, people use that moral guidance to delegitimize what they're saying. We think what we're doing by revoking his Nobel Peace Prize is fundamentally saying to those people that you have a level of legitimacy, that asking for reparations is okay, even though de Klerk supported the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, which has not acknowledged certain crimes against humanity. It tells those people that it's entirely legitimate for you to demand a certain level of compensation from people that took your land, even though de Klerk was against those sorts of things. It takes away the moral high ground that people that stand against you have by saying that this is something which we have revoked from this person and allows people to have those conversations. Necessary conversations which are crushing South Africa right now. We're very proud to propose.
Ladies and gentlemen, what we've gotten from Cyprop are two major gross mischaracterizations. The first mischaracterization is what an award actually is. An award is in the moment. If you did something, we cannot remove the fact that you did it. You cannot remove the fact that this man was the reason why prisoners who were involved with the political revolt against apartheid were freed from their prisons. You can't remove that. Even if he made these comments, and even if he didn't apologize for them, a comment is never going to outweigh the thousands of black people's lives that he saved by taking away this corruption that he had. You can simply not do that. And we feel as though Cyprop has clearly tried to affirm the assumption that this one comment about apartheid not being a crime against humanity, or him saying that the Cecil Rhodes statue shouldn't be taken out, suddenly outweighs the people that could have died. De Klerk had all the power. The South African government was the most powerful. They had no pressure, they had nothing, because they could have killed all the black people and continued to commit more genocides if they wanted to. But he didn't, which shows that he had a good of heart. But even if he didn't, you can't take, yes?
So there were crippling economic sanctions in South Africa at the time, and there was a fear of millions of South Africans, including many of them white, dying. He had to do this. There was literally no other option. We don't think he necessarily deserved it.
What we need to use The method we need to use within debate is within this debate is the effect of that decision. No matter what you try to say, and no matter what opinion he has, even if right now the Klerk thinks that black people are the worst people in South Africa, you simply cannot remove the fact that he saved them from this. You simply cannot remove the fact that he was the reason why you, as a South African or someone who's watching this right now in South Africa, are free. You cannot deny that. So basically, first we also need to understand what this Nobel Peace Prize, what him shaking hands with Nelson Mandela on stage meant to the South African people. It's a gross mischaracterization to say that no one wants de Klerk anymore, because de Klerk shaking hands with Nelson Mandela on camera, like Jonas said, was more than just a black guy and a white guy shaking hands. What this meant to the South African people was that apartheid was over. What this meant was a symbolization of the rainbow nation. And when you take that away, you tell them that everything that they've believed is a lie. You tell them that the moral code that they've built up about equality is a lie, and they should reconsider everything. Because everything from that moment about racism and about race was established from that. Everything black people in South Africa thought about race was established from that moment. They thought that, okay, since our two idols are shaking hands, probably this means that this symbolizes the rainbow nation and all those things. So basically, we need to understand those gross mischaracterizations to understand what I mean when I go into my arguments. So the first thing we need to understand is the racial division you further cause when you revoke this prize. What you don't understand is the fact that these two guys shaking hands on TV had such a big impact, and you're taking it away, means that you're creating racial division in the sense that people view people like de Klerk shaking hands on TV with Nelson Mandela as the model white citizen, someone who believes in equality, someone who had all the power to kill white people even if he wanted to, but still didn't. When you take that away, you basically tell the black people, even in the best case where they are able to convince the nation that de Klerk was this mass murderer and doesn't deserve the Nobel Prize, what you tell those people about the model white citizen is that you tell them that they are not who they thought de Klerk was, and you tell them that no, these white people are actually racist and they're here to take your jobs and all those things. Within South Africa, and the nature of what South Africans can do to a particular race that they hate, xenophobia could potentially go up, which Jonas was talking about. The civil unrest that you cause is off the charts, because when you destroy an entire moral code that one, people have worked so hard to establish, but two, people believe in so much, even if you were to not convince them of that and convince them of what you do want them to be convinced of, at the end of the day, you still cause a major civil unrest. But ladies and gentlemen, the biggest question within today's debate is at what cost? At what cost are we willing to take away this moral code, and at what cost are we willing to take away this moral code that South Africans have worked so hard to establish? Are we taking it away so Julius Malema and a bunch of his radicals can be happy, or should we rather keep it so that things like the Rainbow Nation can stay the way they are, and we don't have things like apartheid or bridges between racial division? Because we tell you that we want things to stay the way they are, because we tell you that we believe in real equality, and because we tell you that we believe that award should be given to someone when they do something nice, we are proud to oppose.
Ivan, we feel that when you say apartheid isn't as bad as it was, Mr. Speaker, we feel that you cause a lot of problems and issues within a nation, as it was seen 2 to 3 days ago when the Klerk said that apartheid isn't as bad as genocide, Mr. Speaker. When he downplayed apartheid and made it look like it wasn't as bad as it was, Mr. Speaker. We feel that this is problematic, and therefore the South African nation spoke out against this. So what do we hear from the first speaker of side opposition? They told us that he broke his teachings and his ideologies and all this, and he was and so forth, and to get this prize. This is what we'll tell you. Yes, we do concede to the fact that he freed many people and free people like Nelson Mandela and started a referendum for an all-white this and that to break the apartheid laws. We concede to this, Mr. Speaker. But we tell you, as Anesu mentioned in her first speech, that when you get this prize, people expect you to live up to a certain expectation, Mr. Speaker. You have a certain responsibility that you have to fulfill, and when you do not fulfill this, you cause a lot of trouble, Mr. Speaker. When F.P. de Klerk got this Nobel Prize, he got it because he stood against apartheid and so forth and so forth. And when he says that apartheid isn't that bad, and we're not going to take down statues that encourage black superiority, we feel that this is problematic and goes against exact purpose why he got this award. Secondly, we feel that he clearly had to do this as South Africa was going through a rough time, so he had to stand up for this, to free Mandela and all these people. He had to stand up for this. We feel like that was one of the reasons why he did this also. Also, the first speaker mentions what is the point of giving this prize if you're going to take it away anyways. This is where I repeat what Anesu said. So they clearly didn't listen. We tell you that this was a responsibility that was placed upon him. He had this image that he had to fulfill, which he didn't, and therefore we feel it to be right to revoke his privilege office. Okay. They asked the POI of how if someone got into a car accident and they were the smartest person and now they're not anymore, Mr. Speaker, we feel that POI is clearly very irrelevant, and I'll explain to you why. We tell you that this was an accident that he's mentioning, and we tell you that F.P. de Klerk was in control of the things that he said and did, Mr. Speaker, which someone in an accident wouldn't have control of. He could have chose to let this whole road statue thing go, and he could have chose to not say the things he did, which he did, Mr. Speaker, and therefore we feel it would be right to revoke his Peace Prize. Okay, secondly, they mention how the award is in the moment and so forth. This is what we tell you, that he is an ambassador, Mr. Speaker. People look up to him. He is a moral ambassador. He has to live up to these moral values, Mr. Speaker. Also, what do we hear from their second speaker, sorry? We hear that we cause a civil unrest, and all the Africans know what they know about races because of this prize. We tell you that necessarily they never needed this prize in order to shake hands. They never needed this prize in order to show unity in the country, Mr. Speaker. So therefore we feel like that has fallen flat in the debate. And also secondly, they failed to engage with Christian's argument about how the message, the positive discourse that it causes in South Africa. Okay, so what do we hear from side proposition? What do Anesu and Christian tell you in today's debate? We tell you that his actions and his demented ideologies, Mr. Speaker, of course, would be the reasons why I would like to revoke his Nobel Peace Prize. We tell you that the fact that he refused to take away the road statue, which they clearly failed to engage with, Mr. Speaker. We feel that we feel that he wanted this South African, this white superior statue to stay up because that's what he clearly thought. We feel that the fact that he tried to downplay apartheid, which was technically considered as something against humanity by the UN and so forth, and he still tried to downplay. What do we hear about from Christian? We hear about the positive. This goes, Mr. Speaker. And so, Mr. Speaker, because we feel that apartheid is something that should not be downplayed, and we feel that it is as important as any other thing and should not be compared to genocide, we feel that we take this debate. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, Prof has continuously failed to prove how revoking the Nobel Peace Prize will not cause racial division. What you constantly hear from Jonas and Moses' case is that he was indoctrinated, and the fact that he overcame it makes him more deserving of it. It is important to the South African people that they get closure and peace for apartheid. When you revoke that peace, when you take that closure away, they don't prove how they are going to handle the civil unrest and racial division we took about within our debate and between proven why they outhide the civil unrest. Okay. Mandela and de Klerk shaking hands was a gateway to a new start of a new world that has no racism or apartheid. What their first speaker said, she said that a comment that he made outweighs all the black people that he saved. Well, I feel like it's not, we believe that it's not, because he has saved more people than he had than one comment that one comment does not outweigh as much as people as that he saved. That de Klerk had all the power. He could kill all the black people. The South African government also had power. The reason why he didn't further invoke apartheid was out of the goodness of his heart.
Ma'am?
The Nobel Peace Prize told the South African people that color doesn't mean superiority. When you take that away, it tells them that all they worked for was a lie. You totally disrupt the moral code that they think they had. They have failed to prove how the community about apartheid outweighed the millions of lives that he saved and the civil unrest that he provided. They fail to prove how they are going to prevent civil unrest, strikes, riots. He is a moral aim personal for white people, but happens when his ambassador for white people. What happens when his image is ruined? People are going to be xenophobic towards white people. I strongly believe that our point still stands, because you cannot give someone something that they did in the past, and not just because of a simple comment that they made, you want to take it away. It will just it will open old wounds for South Africans of apartheid. Like, they felt like apartheid is now over because Mandela and de Klerk shook hands. Now they don't have to deal with that again. But us taking away this, it shows that apartheid is, of course, gonna somehow come back. I strongly believe that our point still stands, because it's no use. You gave him this because of the goodness that he did. Because of the goodness that he did. And us taking it away would just revoke it, like seeming like you made a mistake by giving him this because of one comment that he did. Still, as I said, he saved so many black people's lives, and now again, just because of one comment that he made, you want to take away the prize that he got. As our first speaker said, a Nobel Prize is, of course, an award given to a person by doing something good. Well, like, in my words, by doing something good. Now, he did something good, and it's not like he's telling people that apartheid must come back. If he did, yes, we would have taken the award back, but then he did not. He just made a simple comment. Comment, which I still strongly don't believe that we should take away the prize.
to call on Mr. Albibota just to give a few remarks. This man is known for a very specific phrase in the newsroom. Don't tell me, show me. That's how we know him.
Good afternoon, everybody. Once again, thanks so much for making time and joining us. We are going to celebrate 5 years in about 5 minutes' time, or a bit longer. One thing we must appreciate about an organization like NMH is that it's not just 5 years old, it's not just 40 years old, it is 103 years old. And when an organization is as old as 103, it inevitably has an unbelievable level of wisdom and depth and knowledge and all those wonderful things that comes with age. But something that age unfortunately does, it inevitably can lose passion, it can lose energy, and that's why a project like the Zone team contributes, or complements is the right word, the levels between wisdom, depth, knowledge, understanding, and energy, and this year is no exception. So congratulations for the energy levels that you're showing, and it fits very well with the theme this year being energy. And so when I was sitting there just now, once again I had a lot of appreciation for this energy that you're showing. And news is energy. If news does not have energy, it doesn't get shared. People don't know about it. So if whenever you do something, whatever it is, whether it is in journalism or in accounting or in whatever industry that you're going to be in your future, don't lose the energy, don't lose the passion, because if you do, you will find that life is very, very long. And you don't want to have a long life. You want to have a life full of energy. So please enjoy the rest of the afternoon, and once again, thank you so much.
Back to give the verdict for the second debate. So just a summation of what we got in the debate. Proposition had the idea that he denies, F.W. de Klerk denying apartheid by nature, denies the war crimes that took place in apartheid. So it's the denial of those things. And the award in itself is given to somebody that advances humanity in terms of the values that we place on human lives and all those things. So they had this belief that they want to remove or revoke those particular ideologies. And then the whole idea was that apartheid was going to end because there was already pressure on him coming from the global village, where he had pressure economically, where there were sanctions, there was a racial war that was coming, and he just had to succumb to the particular pressure. And that the kind of discourse that they feel that should be had should be rather about, all that would have is with regards to him being an apartheid apologist, because he says those things were not as bad. On side opposition, it's that he was indoctrinated into the system, so he basically inherited the harms of those particular things, and that he fought against the system to bring about the end of apartheid with Nelson Mandela, and he brought about the Rainbow Nation, and by revoking this particular award, it would open wounds, but more importantly, it would bring about civil unrest that exists, that would come into South Africa, and then also by doing so, it would further have an even further division of racial classes within South Africa. With all the merits that we had in the debate, as the panel of judges, we felt the debate went to side proposition. Thank you so much, everybody, for the debate. Enjoy school tomorrow. All right.
Now, there was an a very interesting debate indeed. Thank you, Ivan, for the deliberation, and thank you guys for being here, because without you, we wouldn't have a debate. Thank you guys for watching, and keep it locked to My Zone for all your latest youth news. If you have any comments, drop them in the comments below. And of course, join us next time for another interesting debate. It might be somebody you know.